contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Roger Stone. Roger, thanks for coming on today. I wanted to have you on because I saw your post on military spending, but wow, the timing is just fantastic because we're, I guess, going to get a budget deal today. But what say you about all this going on, trying to doge the Pentagon? I mean, you go all the way back to Nixon. I mean, you got a real historical archive there. Tell us what you think's happening.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to note that over his terms in office, President Richard Nixon cut military defense spending by 40%. Pentagon has an $850 billion budget. An 8% cut is hardly draconian. Is there anyone out there who doesn't believe that there's waste and fraud? And yes, let's just say it, corruption within our military spending. So I think that no department should be sacrosanct. You notice AOC very cleverly, the trick of a bartender demagogue, puts in the cuts to Social Security and Medicare, for which there are no plans whatsoever. She has some answering to do. How did she go being worth nothing to about $18 million? Where did that money come from? No, it wasn't from the sale of books that you wrote because you can't write. She's the manifestation of the establishment. They're apoplectic because Elon Musk and his Doge product have produced undeniable, undisputable, not millions, not billions, but trillions of dollars worth of fraud. And the most amazing thing is much of it is flowing to nonprofit organizations associated with people like AOC. So she's great at talking points. I'd love to see her in a debate. She's never debated any of her opponents in her races for Congress because if her IQ was 1 point lower, you'd have to water her like a plant.
Oh my, Roger. What do you? What is the key? I mean, let me just start over with the military spending, right? From Nixon on, from Vietnam on. I mean, it's obvious we've been played on multiple wars. These, it's the same playbook. Scare the American public. We have this enemy. We have to fight them. Let's do a big war. Let's keep our troops in Syria. Trump tried to get them out. And now that chicken is coming home to roost with what we were funding under the Obama administration, the massacring of Christians. I want to get to that in the next segment. But what is the key to cutting the Pentagon? Is it just doging it and find the corruption, or is it restructuring it? What are your thoughts?
How many times do we need to be able to kill everyone in the world? 15 times enough? Or maybe 20 would be better.
Yeah.
I kind of think once does the trick. In other words, to pretend, yes, we do need a lean, efficient, high-tech military. But let's start with the more basics. The number of people signing up, recruitment is in the toilet because of two factors, really. First of all, because of the mandatory vaccinations. Drove a lot of people away from the military, also forced a number of people to retire. And also because, well, we have this tendency to want to march off to endless foreign wars where our inherent national interest is not at all clear. So I have a high regard for Hegseth. I like the idea of finally having a Secretary of Defense who's actually fought in the trenches and been under fire, enemy fire. It's been a long time since we had a Secretary of Defense who was actually in the military.
Yeah.
Our Secretary of Defense were civilians who had never fought in combat for their country. Hegseth, whatever you may think of him, I like him. But
I like him. Yeah.
He's a genuine hero. Robert McNamara never risked his life for the United States, yet he's responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans in Vietnam. So I think that to pretend that the Pentagon should be sacrosanct, that all these cuts should come elsewhere, I think that Musk will be just as effective at finding waste and fraud in military spending as he will in all other departments of government. One final point.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders. You know how Bernie always used to attack billionaires and millionaires? Now watch very carefully. Now he only attacks billionaires. That's because Bernie and his wife skimmed millions of dollars off his 2 presidential campaigns. They became quite wealthy. They took it in media commissions. Now, that's not illegal, but it stinks. Did his donors know that Bernie was pocketing millions of dollars from his own campaign? I rather doubt it. Now, Bernie's driving a top of the line Mercedes. He's got 3 vacation homes. So he loves socialism for you, but not for Comrade Bernie.
I went to the Air Force Academy, and I studied Russian, and I had an instructor who was a former Soviet, and he said he was sitting on the corner in Moscow, and a big caravan of black cars came by, and everybody else was standing in line for food, and somebody joked, well, at least someone's enjoying communism. It seems like Bernie Sanders, I know about all the vacation homes, but it's really fascinating.
Well, I mean, the worst part is he's just a honking, loudmouth pain in the ass. He's a total fraud. This guy's been on the public payroll his entire life. He's never had a job other than being the mayor of Burlington and a U.S. senator. So why is he so wealthy? He will say it's because of the sale of his books. I checked on the sale of his books. Every one of his books lost money. So, I mean, really, the guy's just trying to squeeze the last few dollars. He is living high on the system. He's the epitome of the Washington politician, a total fraud. He's not a socialist. He's not a communist. He just wants to line his own pockets.
Speaking of Bernie, we did a lot of research several years ago. It's one of the reasons we got deplatformed and attacked was on our reporting on Ukraine. And they went after Bernie before they went after Trump from Ukraine. I mean, they were running an op against him. I guess the whole Clinton, blob machine didn't want him in office. But let's move to Ukraine. I mean, you've got well, go ahead.
Let's just address this point.
Yeah.
There was a time when Bernie was actually anti-war.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when I actually respected him. I said, well, look, this guy's a socialist, but he really believes what he's saying. When he endorsed Hillary Clinton, when he endorsed Joe Biden, he demonstrated that he believes in nothing. That Bernie Sanders is no longer alive. So if the Ukrainians attacked him, it's because he was at one time in his past anti-war. Today, he's gung-ho for war. He doesn't like civil liberties either. He used to be a strong believer in free speech. He no longer believes in free speech either, other than his free speech. Really, of the 100 senators, I think he's the worst demagogue and the worst con man. Just a total charlatan.
Agreed. What about AOC? Does she have a future? Is she going to keep her seat? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, she'll keep her seat because redistricting in New York is so ridiculous that she has a solidly Democrat district, although it is mostly minority and it is more Spanish than it is Hispanic, than it is African American. But I really hope, I pray that she runs for president. I would love to see her as the Democrat nominee. They don't have much of a bench, as you know. I mean, you have Josh Shapiro is tangled up in the Ellen Greenberg murder-suicide controversy. She allegedly committed suicide by stabbing herself in the back at least 10 times. It turns out that her fiancé, who's the chief suspect, a gentleman named Goldberg, he was cleared by District Attorney Josh Shapiro. Goldberg's family happens to be among Shapiro's largest financial supporters. This case stinks, and it's going to dog him if he runs for president. You've got Gavin Newsom. He's got great hair. You got to admit that. And he certainly knows how to use his hands to try to distract you from what he's saying. But his record is abysmal. Los Angeles, San Francisco, Oakland, the largest outdoor toilets in the country, a horrific crime problem. They're taxing themselves to death. Their economy is a basket case. And of course, they are the epitome of DEI policies. So in order to save a fish, we turned off the water and let half of Los Angeles burn down. I don't think he's a viable national candidate, but I've got the slogan for him. He'll do for America what he's done for California. Rahm Emanuel now says that he's going.
I saw that. That was interesting.
Yeah, the henchman fixer for Bill Clinton. He could probably actually get nominated. The party of John Kennedy, the party of Harry Truman, the party that actually had moderates, the Democrat Party that believed in capitalism, free enterprise, that was patriotic, that believe we did need a strong national defense. That Democrat Party no longer exists. The moderate Democrat is an oxymoron, never mind conservative Democrat. There is no such thing. The party has been captured by a lunatic fringe of Marxists, and they will produce a nominee that reflects that.
Interesting. What happens to politics going forward? Is the Democratic Party just going to die, or will they go the way of the Whigs, or will someone come in and try to restructure it? I mean, you've got really a Marxist, seditious, bunch of gangsters inside the power structure of the U.S.
Well, obviously, they're hoping that they can use their main handmaidens in the mainstream media to scare enough people to take back the House in the midterm elections.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Raskin, the communist congressman from Marxist, is from Maryland. His father was a communist. He's a communist. Says that he wants to investigate the acting U.S. attorney in D.C. Translation: the acting U.S. attorney in D.C. is investigating Comrade Raskin. By the way, I've already seen a draft, not an official one. I've seen an unofficial 98-page draft of a criminal indictment regarding Mr. Raskin. So this was done by one of these outside groups. It was quite compelling. This guy, by the way, went on television, said that he would produce proof that I was involved in illegal acts on January 6th. He's never produced any such thing, but he won't waive his congressional immunity so I can sue him. There is no lower life form known to man than Jamie Raskin. He's now replaced Adam Schiff as the single most odious member of the House.
Roger, I want to get, do you have time for a couple-minute break? And then we'll be right back for one more segment. We'll be right back on Output.
Special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Roger, thanks for joining us again. I want to switch to Ukraine. You got Witkoff over in Moscow. It seems to have gone well. Putin put out and said, well, we're open to the idea of a ceasefire, but we have some concerns, some nuances, he called it. There's reports that he said he's optimistic, but you got Zelensky out there saying, I'm going to force Putin to end the war. I mean, that's just irrational. What are your thoughts about this monkey business going on here?
Well, as I'm sure you saw the other day, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that he was prepared to impose sanctions, bank sanctions, and tariffs on the Russians if they didn't come to the table.
Mm-hmm.
He's a difficult job. It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
So first he got Zelensky to agree to a ceasefire. I think that was a major accomplishment. And he finally got him to come to the table. Mm-hmm. Remember, we had no peace talks and no attempt to even have them under Joe Biden. They didn't want a resolution. They
weren't even talking.
Right. And they would. And I think the Ukrainians actually wanted to talk because they're getting war weedy. They're getting the daylights kicked out of them, despite what you may have seen in the U.S. media. But Blinken and Biden would not even allow them to enter discussions. No interest in peace. Just want to extend the war forever. Trump is in this difficult position where he gets one side put together and then the other side falls apart. Then he gets the other side put together and the others back off. Takes two to tango. He does understand the art of the deal. Once he gets everybody to the table, and I think he will, you're going to get a resolution of this war. Biden announced before the war began that he would have been willing to give the Russians the Donbass. People forget that. So I think you're going to get a resolution. And Trump is using diplomacy to get them closer and closer together. He had to get a little harsh with the Russians, so much for the idea that he's in Putin's pocket, which is, of course, absurdity.
Todd, I mean, Bessent did tighten sanctions, banking sanctions yesterday, not new sanctions, but just tightened them. Yeah.
I mean, I had a reporter, a very well-known reporter from a great metropolitan newspaper call me the other day and asked me whether I thought it was possible that Trump had become a Russian asset when he visited Moscow in the 80s, and whether Trump's first flirtation with the presidency in 1988 was an idea that was hatched in Moscow. Well, since that was my idea, I said, no, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. This idea of trying to brand Trump as somehow in the pocket of Putin simply because he wants to end this pointless war is absurd. Let's be clear what the war is about. In the Budapest Memorandum and in the Minsk Accords, we agreed not to push Ukraine into NATO. Period. James Baker said, not one further inch east. Yet we have done exactly that. Putin does not want NATO missiles, which are really Western missiles, our missiles, paid for by you and I, on the ground, on his border, pointed at Russia. Why is this different than the Russians putting missiles in Moscow in Havana in 1962? It's not. So that's what the war is really about. Now add the bioweapons labs that Victoria Nuland blurted out in congressional hearings do exist and then tried to backpedal. This is an existential threat to the Russians. Putin has made this very clear over and over again. But the mainstream media here and the Democrats would have you believe this is about the territorial ambitions of Putin. He's going to gobble up Ukraine, then he's going to take all of Poland, then he's going to take all of Germany, then he's probably going to take France. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. He's warned us repeatedly that if NATO insisted in trying to put missiles into Ukraine and tried to push NATO membership for Ukraine, that he would have no choice. That's what this war is really about.
I completely agree. I love your analysis. I want to talk to you, switch to the Middle East. Christianity in Syria. We funded ISIS, or this Al-Qaeda group in Syria under Obama. They were the good terrorists for a while. Then we helped overthrow the Assad regime, which hurt Russia. I think that was one of the agendas during that, what happened over the last few months. And now you've got HTS with Golani in running Syria. He's got a beard, he's got a haircut and a new suit, and he's going to Russia or Brussels for donor conferences, but he just massacred close to 20,000 civilians, many of them Christian. What are your thoughts on that?
I just wrote a long piece on this at my Substack, also at stonezone.com. This was very predictable. Ironically, I saw this the other night. Donald Trump predicted this almost 10 years ago when Tulsi Gabbard, for whom I have a very high regard, visited Assad and expressed her concern about the safety of Christians in Syria. She was mocked. She was said that she was somehow a stooge for the Assad regime. Now, no one is saying Assad was a great guy. No one was saying that he was a paragon of human rights. However, we did not have the mass slaughter of Christians. We're talking about the crucifixion of children as young as 5. So this was predictable. The real shame is on all those European heads of state who are cheering on the new Islamic regime in Syria. This is a horrific world tragedy, but it gets very little coverage. You have to go on. You have to go on social media like X to see these horrific videos. This was kind of very predictable. Final point: Biden and the CIA rushed very quickly to topple Assad because they knew Trump would not topple Assad. They have blood on their hands, the blood of Christians on their hands. This is a horrific situation.
It sure is. What about Turkey? I mean, I think they see, I put an article out this morning. I think they see an opportunity to kind of get back in the EU club. They're flexing their muscles down into Syria against Israel, making a lot of threats. It's Sunni influence, obviously, against the Shia Iran. But I see the Middle East changing. I mean, Syria is going to be Balkanized, right?
It appears that way. It's interesting to me that President Trump has appointed Tom Barrack, one of his very closest friends and advisors, to be the ambassador to Turkey. Barrack is very much like Trump. He is a deal maker. He's a master negotiator. I think it's among his very best appointments. The Turks at this point, I would have to say, it's just my opinion, they're frenemies. They're frenemies of the United States.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about the possible conflict with Israel, or do they not have that willpower to do that? Any consideration there?
I'm not a military expert. I think that the Israelis are obviously extremely well armed, and they will do whatever's necessary in the region to protect themselves. But had we never canceled the sanctions that Trump had in place on Iran,
Mm-hmm.
the sanctions were so harsh that not even the Chinese would buy oil from their basically their puppet state, uh, and they didn't have the money to finance terrorist attacks like the one on October 7th. They didn't have the money to continue to develop their nuclear weapons program. Uh, Joe Biden has basically given them over $190 billion in frozen cash. What did you think they were going to do with that? Use it for humanitarian purposes?
Totally agree. Roger, thank you for your time. Where can people follow you? Anything else you want to get out, that kind of stuff?
Sure. You can go to stonezone.com. And then every day now at 8 o'clock Eastern, go to WABCradio.com. I do an hour live primetime show. It is the most powerful AM radio station in the country. If you live in the New York area, it's 770 on the AM dial. But no matter where you are in the world, you can go to WABCradio.com at 8 o'clock Eastern. Please check it out. It's called The Stone Zone.
Cool. Roger, thanks. We'll have you back. Appreciate it.
Be here.